So this week we have another interview, this time with someone who I reckon is quite well known in Camino circles. And we're going to be talking about a whole range of topics, and particularly volunteering in albergues. Coming right up. So Janet, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
So, for those of you who don't know Janet Wilhouse, Janet's a fairly active member on Camino forums, and I have to say, she has lots of very interesting and valid advice. You walked your first Camino, I think, in 2016,
That's right.
and you volunteered a few times, 6 or 7, at that wonderful
Yeah.
albergue in Grenon. So, I'd love to hear about that, amongst other things. So, let's jump right into that. What got you into volunteering?
Well, it was kind of interesting. After our first Camino in 2016, my husband had a pretty serious injury. He fell down a flight of steps and he wasn't able to walk a Camino, and he really wanted to go back and walk again. And it was just devastating that we weren't going to be able to go back. I mean, the Camino will always be there, but at that point in time, it was devastating. And so I started poking around and I said, well, if we can't walk a Camino, why don't we volunteer? And we took a course. The course is an approved course from the Spanish Federation. The OSVAL organization requires it to volunteer in their albergues. And they teach the course in the United States, usually several times a year at several locations. And so we signed up to take this course and got an assignment to be in Zamora, which is on the Via de la Plata. And that was our very first assignment. It was over Christmas of 2017. And we probably had like a grand total of 7 pilgrims or something the whole 2 weeks.
I,
But
I
it,
can imagine the VDLP back then. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, but we had a wonderful time, and we just loved it, and um, we loved Zamora, and we thought, wow, we've got to do this again. So we just started making it a part of our regular uh, travel. That every year when we knew we were going to go to Spain, we would contact either the the person at OSVAL who does the assignments. And then later we also got involved with FICS.
Mm.
And at that time, Rebecca Scott was the person who did the volunteer assignments. And so with both of those two organizations, we've volunteered almost every year. We didn't do 2020. And Phil did 2021 by himself because I was still working. And we skipped 2024 because I took a group of students to Spain instead. So, but pretty much every year, every other year, we have served at an albergue for a couple of weeks
That's
at
tremendous.
some point. Yeah,
So can we peel a couple of layers off that? Because
sure.
so, what, why do it? What do you get out of it?
Well, as I mentioned, it was just devastating to
Mm.
Phil that we couldn't go
Yeah.
back and walk. And the reason was in 2016 when we walked, he became really ill at the
Mm.
very end of the Camino, right in Melide. And we had an experience at near the end of the Camino where we were going to have to stop, and we were just, you know, a day or two's walk away. And it was at that moment, all of the people that we had never met before, that they didn't owe us anything, but they were so kind, and they cared for me and they cared for Phil. And we still didn't end up walking into town. And uh, Phil really regretted that.
Mm.
And so he felt like we needed to go back later. But I think up until that point, we had been walking like 45 days
Wow. Mm.
on the Camino Francis. And I was so done with it.
Mm.
I was just ready to like pack it up and go home. I just couldn't wait for the end to come. I had sprained my ankle. I had plantar fasciitis in the other
Mm.
foot, you know, and I was just like, why are we even doing this? This is so stupid. You know, I'm hot, I'm tired, and
I'm having flashbacks.
yeah. But Phil was just, you know, he was just like, no, no, we need to finish, we need to finish. And then he got sick. And he had really been the whole reason I was walking all along. I was never walking that Camino for
Mm.
myself.
Wow.
I was walking it for him. And suddenly I realized all of the people on the Camino are what make the Camino.
Oh, absolutely.
It's it's not uh, it's not your Camino like
No.
you know, all about you-ness. No, it's about all these people who are joining together to make something beautiful happen.
Mm.
And I just felt like we needed to be a part of giving that gift to others.
You know, what's that term? In helping others, we help ourselves. Do you
Yeah,
think there's an
yeah. I
element of
always,
that?
oh, sure. I
Yeah.
always say, people say, well, why are you doing this? It's like hard work. And,
Mm.
you know, some people are not very nice.
Mm.
And always tell them, like, the gift is in the giving.
Yeah.
You're not giving somebody a gift by volunteering. You're giving the gift to yourself.
Mm.
It's the gift of giving that makes it feel so wonderful.
Oh, I'm very envious that you've managed to do it so many times. Pat and I have done the training, but have yet to manage to actually get over and do the volunteering. But I think we'll have to wait until we're retired. But I kind of get it. Yeah, it must be a
Yeah.
tremendous feeling. And so you volunteered at Zamora. Zamora is a lovely
Hmm.
place. I noticed the
Yes.
last time you were at Grenon, and you were
Grignon.
sharing lots
Hmm.
of information about that on the
Yeah.
forum. I must say, you,
So
you seem
we
to
have been at,
rule that pretty well.
well, we have been at Grignon 2 times.
Wow, yeah.
We were there over Christmas of 2018, which was a wonderful time to be
Mm.
there, to share Christmas with
Mm.
just people who are walking, and
Mm.
it's, you know, they're not at home, and that was a great year too. And this year when we went back, it was also it's kind of the shoulder season still, and not a lot of albergues are open, but we knew Grignon would be open. And so Phil had specifically requested that we go back there. We had such a lovely time there before. Um, and it's a lovely place. It's a very labor intensive albergue for
Mm.
the hospitaleros, because you're you're up at 5:30 making breakfast for everybody, and you quite often don't get to bed until, you know, 11, 12, something like that. And there's a lot to do. You know,
Mm.
there's cleaning, you got to look for bed bugs every day. You're welcoming pilgrims at all times of the day, because there's no check-in time at Grignon. And you never know how many people to expect. Sometimes it'll be, you know, 3, and sometimes it'll be 30. Um, and so you're trying to clean and in and around
Mm.
everybody, and make everybody happy and talk. And I think the best part about Grignon is that it just requires that pilgrims participate. Now they don't have to, but I have seen so many people say, no, that's just not my thing. I'll just
Yeah.
sit over here and watch. And the next thing you know, they're up at the table, like cutting a tomato or something,
Yeah.
and help. It's the same way with going to Mass.
Mm.
Bill and I are not Catholic, but one of our jobs at Grignon was to make sure that pilgrims knew that Mass was at a certain time. And in order to do that, we always took them. I always would say, now I'm going to Mass at this time, and if you want to go with me, you know, you can sit with me, or um, you know, if you don't want to go, we do occasionally
Mm.
have people that don't want to go. I always ask them, could you be the hospitalero while I'm gone?
Yeah.
You know, could you stir the soup
Yeah.
at least twice while I'm gone?
Yeah.
And that always makes them feel so special. You know, like that
Mm.
for 45 minutes they got to be the hospitalero.
That's
Um,
that's that's tremendous. Just hearing you say that, I can imagine there are people who might be quite lonely, who might be quite introverted, who naturally feel they want to go and sit in the corner and sort of not participate.
yeah.
But I can imagine the
Yeah,
environment that you're creating there just draws them in.
yeah, yeah. And it's not for everyone. Sometimes
Mm.
people are just, they come in and they're like, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a little too much togetherness for
Mm.
me. And we always try to help them find a place
Mm.
because, it's not for everybody.
Oh, that's great.
Uh,
That's great.
yeah.
So what other places have you volunteered at?
So let's see. We volunteered in Estella in San
Mm.
Miguel,
Oh, yeah.
kind of up on the hill.
Mm.
We did that in summer of 2019. Phil has done a little albergue on the Meseta. Um, Hermanillos
Oh, yeah.
it's in the town. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He's done that one by himself.
Mm.
And that was in a little farming town with nobody spoke English.
Yeah.
I think the lady at the store spoke a little English.
Mm.
But he managed to get everything that he needed done
Mm.
and it was fine. We've also been at Canfranc,
Oh, right.
uh, it's a newer albergue. It's Elias Valina. It's named after the priest
Yeah,
that
from
sort of,
Othavera.
yeah,
Yeah.
brought the resurgence to
Mm.
the Camino.
Mm.
And that is an FICS
Mm.
albergue. We've been at Ares, which is
Mm.
also on the Camino Aragones,
Great.
and again, cooking for people, cleaning. Yep.
That's
And we've been at
tremendous.
Grañón again. Yeah. So
Mm.
we normally just tell them when we're going to be there, and they
Yeah.
just ask, say, hey, could you go here?
Yeah, that's great.
And I think once you've been at like an albergue like Grañón or
Mm.
Ares, where you're doing all the cooking and
Mm.
shopping and everything, you could do any albergue
Yeah, yeah,
if you could do those.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So, if there are people watching this, and I know there's a number of people out there always, and particularly those planning the first Camino, who's kind of, and confession, I was like this. I'm not really into the dorm stuff.
Yeah.
I went to boarding school. I was in the military. Whatever. I'm over that. I think a lot of people kind of get it in their heads that they're just not going to enjoy the whole sort of albergue experience. What would you say to that? I mean, are there some people who should avoid it? You're not going to enjoy it, or
Well, quite often I hear people say that they feel lonely on the Camino, that, they don't they don't meet very many people.
yeah,
And I think being at the albergue is one way to meet
mm,
people, certainly.
mm,
So if you're feeling like I'm just not meeting people or I'm too
mm,
shy or whatever, you might give it a try.
mm,
You're right. I mean, like I was also in the army,
yeah.
so I get it. Like nobody wants that open
That's
bay
right. I'm an
barbecue
adult
again.
now. I don't need that.
Yeah. I always refer to it when I'm talking to a group, and I usually show them a picture
Mm,
of the albergue in Los Arcos,
mm,
um, that is run by Belgian uh, Hospitaleros, I think,
mm,
and I can't remember the name right now. But I always tell him, like, it's you and your new 49 best friends
yeah,
sleeping in this room,
yeah,
because that's what it is. It's just a
mm,
big open bay with a bunch of
yeah,
bunk beds in it, and it is uncomfortable for some people.
mm,
But I think for me, like once you get over that initial like, oh, here I am back at boot camp kind of
yeah,
thing. Uh, A, it's inexpensive.
mm,
B, they have a place to cook your supper, and I'm
yeah.
diabetic, so I
All
like to
right.
cook my
Yeah.
own supper if I can. It's a place to meet people.
Mm,
They're usually very clean. I mean,
yeah.
especially if they have volunteers. The volunteers are like, they want to make sure it's clean. Like it should smell like detergent when you go in,
I remember a
like
comment of yours on the forum. It was something like, "It took us a few hours to get it to my standard."
that's
I
exactly,
could
yeah.
picture that.
Yeah. So, and Phil he's very careful. I mean,
Mm,
he has this bed bug, checking
yeah.
thing down to a science,
Mm,
yeah. So, I mean, those are the things I like. They're usually close close to other like stores
Yeah.
and they're usually fairly close to the Camino. I know sometimes if you're looking for like a private room, and it's a busy time, sometimes you're going miles off the Camino
Yeah.
to get a room. But yeah, and some albergues do have private rooms. Um, Not all albergues will accept bag transfer. And so that's one thing to be aware of. Like a lot of the albergues where we work, we're volunteers and we're not there all the time. We might be gone to the store, and it's our job to protect pilgrims and to protect their belongings. And so we don't just give anybody a key.
No.
Like come on in and leave
That's
some
a really
bags or
good
take
point.
some
Yeah,
bags.
that's a
Yeah.
really good point. And very often the bags are just going to be sitting outside in the weather. It's
Yes.
not the
Yes.
Hospitalera's responsibility to take care of the bags when they're
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's a consideration because some people, they really need to, for whatever reason, they need to send their bag forward. They're ill or they have an
Yeah.
injury or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So those are some things. I mean, I would never force somebody to sleep in an albergue, but I'm kind of cheap, so I like cheap stuff. I like to cook for myself, and I like to meet people, and
Yeah.
that's what an albergue is like.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, having said I was kind of late to the party with albergues, I like them. Not all the time, but I like a mix, and I love the albergue experience. On our next Camino, Pat's never stayed in the communal sort of part of an
oh yeah.
albergue, so I picked a route where there's no option. So don't tell her.
Yeah.
But the trade-off is, I said we're going to do these albergues and we're going to, enjoy that experience, and then we'll have a few nice meals to make up for it.
Yeah.
I'll bribe her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, there's a lot to be said for being prepared to be in an albergue. So like I always take earplugs
Yeah.
and I wear a buff around my neck a lot of times. And
Yeah.
I use that as a eye band
That's good.
to block out noise and light from people's turning on the light or like talking on their phone or whatever. And so that's one thing. I always take a sleeping bag of some kind
Yeah.
because I don't want to lay on a plastic mattress cover or even the cellulose sheet that they give you. There's just some things that you can do to make yourself a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
My husband and I both use a CPAP machine, so we have what we need. We just tell them now we need to be close to a plug, and so.
Yeah. No,
But that's okay. I mean,
yeah.
people need to enjoy their Camino. They don't need to torture themselves if they find that the same snoring person is on the same trajectory as them
Yeah.
every single day and they're just not getting any sleep.
That's right. Walk a
So,
short day, walk a longer day, get out of sync.
yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like if you see that guy checking in to the albergue, go to another one.
That's right. Yeah. It's interesting hearing you say that. I had all these sort of things going in my head, almost excuses for not using albergues. And I'm a snorer. Well, it turns out after staying in a lot of albergues, I'm not much of a snorer. I've had snorers sleeping above me.
Not compared to.
And it wasn't that much of a drama. I had earplugs.
Yeah.
And then I convinced myself that, I can afford a private room. I would be depriving another pilgrim of the albergue bed if I stayed there. And I mean, it's absolute hogwash. Maybe we could sort of explore that whole idea of the Donativo albergue. And, there's this misconception, I think, that it's for people who can't afford anything else.
It is for people who can't afford anything else, but it's also for people who can.
Yeah.
A lot of times people will use that as an excuse. But, we're all the same. I think walking the Camino teaches you more than anything that we are more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
So when you stay at an albergue and there's a person there and sometimes you'll never know that that person can't afford to leave
Yeah.
anything, or that, the only thing they've had to eat today was they bought a loaf of bread and they got some olive oil, and that's all they ate
Yeah.
because that's all they could afford. It is interesting, when we have pilgrims who come in, you don't know what their circumstances
No.
are. And sometimes they're very crabby. And, I always just think like, okay, they're having a bad
Yeah.
day.
We don't know what's
Yeah,
happened.
they're
Yeah.
having a bad day. You don't
Yeah.
know what's happened. You don't know
Mm.
whether they're well-to-do or
Mm.
whether they're not
Mm.
well-to-do unless they tell you.
Mm.
And I never watch people put their money in the box, whether they put it in there
Mm.
or not. So when I am staying in a donativo, I always give extra because I
Yeah.
know there probably will be somebody who
Yeah.
can't afford to give very much.
Yeah.
And I don't want the donativo to go away.
No.
I
And I,
don't
and
want
I
it
th-
to,
and I think that's a key point,
yeah,
and it's kind of one that I took me a while to get over, and that is, if you're going to stay in a donativo and you can afford to, pay at least what you would pay somewhere else, and if you can afford to, pay extra,
sure.
because there's maybe someone who can't
Yeah,
put much in the tin.
yeah,
And like you
yeah.
say, a lot of the
I
donativos rely on the donations to keep going.
yeah. I remember once, and this is at Santa Maria in Carrion de los Condes. And that is not necessarily a donativo albergue, but they
Mm.
have a very low rate that they serve. That's the place with the singing nuns.
Oh
I don't know if
yes, yeah,
you've
yeah.
ever
I
heard it.
haven't
It's a
stayed there.
lovely
I've
place.
heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really lovely. Anyway, when we got there, all I had was a 20, and they
Mm.
didn't have any change or anything like that because we were kind of far up in line or
Yeah.
something. And I said, well, it was €5 a piece. And I said, well, can we just give you 20 and you can use it and you can take it as a donation? And she's
Yeah.
like, oh, no, 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 we can't do that.
Really?
And I said, I know that there are some boys in line behind me who
Yeah.
can't afford to stay here.
Yeah.
Could you take the money and tell them that they could stay
Mm.
and just help do something in the kitchen or whatever?
Yeah.
And they said, okay, we'll do
We
that.
can do that. Yeah.
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 So,
No, that's great, and I think
yeah.
that illustrates the sort of spirit of the Camino, isn't it? We're, like you said, we're all the same. We're all there on this journey together, and there's an opportunity to help each other out.
You meet people you would never meet in your everyday life
Mm.
just because you would never have the same opportunity or
Mm.
circumstances.
Mm.
I see people who are older and younger getting along so well, or I see
Mm.
people who are from different countries, don't speak each other's language, and they're
Yeah.
walking together every day, and they become great friends. And yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's amazing how people buddy up, isn't it? I noticed that on my last Camino. There's a person of about 60 and someone of about 20, and they were like best buddies. Walking for days and
yeah,
days together. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think and being at the albergue sort of helps with that too,
Mm.
because you're in closer proximity to somebody, and you're like, hey, does anybody have a Band-Aid?
Yeah.
I've run out. Somebody has a whole bunch of them, and then they just give them to you, or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
extra. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's a great sort of part of the whole community, isn't it? If you were talking to someone who said, "Hey, I've got I've got the bug. I think I want to go and walk a Camino," what would be a couple of bits of advice that you would give them?
well, so Phil and I, we prepared for like 2 years, saved our money and all that
Mm.
stuff. I don't know. And then we never spent, we didn't use half the stuff that we bought, and
Yeah,
we didn't spend nearly as much money as we
yeah,
thought we were going to. So I guess I would say to some people, like, you can really overplan this.
mm.
And not that that's a bad thing, but it's just it might be one of those things where you're like, well, I'm just not quite ready yet. Well, you're
Mm.
probably ready,
Yeah,
you know. So I'm not sure that I would do quite so much planning. We don't do nearly that much planning
mm.
now.
Mm.
We just say, I think let's just go from this day to this day, and we have some sort of key dates that we
Mm.
need to hit, but then we
Yeah,
don't really need to be any place specific other
yeah,
than that. Um, I would also say that people who want to go on the Camino who are maybe not fit. I read a lot of people who are like practicing and they're getting
Mm,
really fit for their Camino. And again, I'm not sure that that's all that necessary. Walk your own pace.
yeah,
You don't have to kill yourself to get to the next town. If you can't get to the next town, stop in the town you're at now.
yeah. No,
You know,
that's good
don't,
advice.
don't, yeah, just walk as far as you can. And then if you need to, like, yeah, you might have to take a bus or you might
Yeah,
have to take a cab or something. And
yeah.
you can always come back to that place tomorrow if you want to,
That's right.
if you feel like you really want to walk the whole way, you
I
know?
guess we have to remind ourselves this is a pilgrimage. It's not some kind of endurance test. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, it is, it's,
it is in a way. Yeah.
it, there's nothing easy about it. I think we all know that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not easy.
yeah.
It's not easy. And I
Well, it's
think
not like we're training to run a
sometimes,
marathon or something, you know.
yeah,
Mm.
and but there are certain things now, like there was just a thread this week about the hill at Zubiri.
Yeah.
And some people were like, "Oh, I just skipped down it and it was fine," you know, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
tricky
it
in
took me
anybody's
an
language.
hour to get down with
Yeah,
my
yeah, that's a tricky
my
part.
pulse. And
Yeah.
my husband told me, you know, he's had several falls. He's quite
Mm,
a bit older than me, and he's
yeah,
like, I am never doing that hill ever again. I am
yeah,
not doing it again. I've done it twice. I'm not doing it again.
yeah,
And he told me, and I'm not doing that hill after Alto de Perdón,
yeah,
and I'm not doing that hill after Cruz de Ferro.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay then,
yeah. That's fine. Yeah. No, no,
I
don't
guess
be
we'll
put off if
just,
you're planning your first Camino. It's not
yeah.
that bad, but you know.
You know, but I think when you're 75 years old and you don't want to go down that hill again, that's
Yeah,
okay, you
yeah.
know?
I have to say on my last one coming down from El Acebo, I went straight on my butt at one point, and it
Yeah,
was like one of those cartoons. I was up on my feet looking around like no one saw
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And you just glad you didn't hurt yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean I was lucky. It was a very steep
Yeah, I think
section.
that's
My
the
feet
main
just went.
thing.
Yeah,
Be kind to yourself. Take
yeah.
care of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on the topic of training, I overtrained for my first one and hurt myself, and now I have to confess we don't really train. We go for a few little
Yeah,
walks, but because we both love our food too much, our training is kind of just getting our weight down a bit. That makes a huge
yeah.
difference.
Well, we are, I will say, since our first Camino, we are much more active now.
Mm.
We walk a lot.
Oh,
And
that's good.
in the small town where I live
Mm.
currently in rural Missouri,
Mm.
we walk a lot
Good.
and it's very hilly there.
Mm.
And people will stop and ask us, like, can I give you a ride? Are you okay? I'm like, well, yeah, no, actually, we're walking for exercise. And they
Yeah,
were like,
but it's like 5 miles to the next
really?
town. Yeah.
Really, really exercising. Wow, I never thought of it like that. I mean, you know,
That's brilliant.
so we're much more active now.
Yeah.
And so we really don't train either. We
Yeah.
just, you know, like you put your pack on to make sure it
Mm.
fits still and you know, that's
Now,
about it.
I have to ask you, and I'll give you like 10 seconds to think about this. Some albergue anecdotes, but there must be some hilarious things that go on when you've been a hospitalera a few times in albergues, and you know whether it be people who had expectations of something else, or I don't know something beautiful that happened, or what is
Yeah.
there
Oh, I
anything
can
that
think
flashes
of,
to mind?
oh, I think I could think of several things. One, when Phil was working by himself, it was at the end of, it was kind of in between the like waves of COVID and they were
Mm,
just reopening albergues. And the albergues had a 50% capacity where he was working. So he couldn't let out more than like 9 beds or something
mm,
like that. And there was a private albergue in town. There was actually also a Casa Rural. And they were quite often full because they had private rooms
mm,
and that's what people were really wanting. Anyway, um, he was almost never full. I think he was full 2 days. And the lady who owns the albergue came down the street and it was, you know, quite anxious. And she said, I have a woman who thought she made a reservation with us, but she didn't. And she doesn't have a bed and she's very anxious about it. And she said, you know, could she come here? And Phil's like, well, yeah, I got beds. Yeah, send her down. Well, she came down and she came in and Phil showed her into the cubicle, and she was going to have to share her cubicle with like one other person. So it was like a 4-man room, but it would be a 2-man room at that time. And she said, well, is this it? And Phil's like, yes, this is it. And you'll have a roommate. And anyway, she was just really put off by the whole thing. And suddenly the people came together and they were all sitting around the table and they were chatting. And the next thing you know, she was making plans to walk with her bunkmate the next day, where she had been walking alone. She told Phil, I really haven't met anybody. I don't know anybody. And so I thought that was a really beautiful story. Her expectation was that this was just going to be a horrible experience, and it turned out to be, a good one for her.
Isn't that fantastic? Yeah.
And then another one that is perhaps not so fun, was New Year's Eve at Gragnon in 2018, and we had a gentleman come in around noon, little after noon, and we had already some pilgrims there, young women especially, at that time. And he sat down at the table and he pulls a big bottle of wine out and sets it on the table and says, I'm here for the New Year's Eve party.
Okay.
And Phil said, well, we're not going to be having a party. We'll be closing at 10 o'clock like we always do, and we'll be going to sleep. And then he went over and started talking to these girls. And Phil noticed the girls moved away from him. So he went over and asked, well, what's going on? They said, he told us that he's going to kill us while we're sleeping. Phil said, what? He said, yeah. He said that he's going to murder us in our sleep tonight while we're sleeping.
Okay.
And so Phil went over to the man, and he had obviously been drinking a lot and was already drunk at noon. And he told the man, he said, you have to stop. And the man would not stop. He just kept sort of on this vein of that he was going to do something violent. So he told me to get the phone, and I was going to call the Guardia Civil. And Phil used to be a police officer. So he walks over, he picks up the man's backpack. He said, I knew he had everything he owned in that backpack. And I knew he wasn't a pilgrim. I knew he was probably just a person with mental illness on the Camino, with an alcohol problem. And so he said, I picked up his backpack, and I gave him the police. The police is like, Senor.
You come with me. Yeah.
And the guy saw that he had his bag. Yeah. And he walked all the way down the bell tower, the three stories to the door. He handed him his bag at the doorway and said, adios.
Very good.
And the man left. Yeah. And there was the Hospitalera that was going to replace us was there. And he was saying to Phil, oh no, we've got to lock the door. He's going to come back and all that. Phil said, he won't come back. He said, I know, I've worked with people like this. I know that he's not going to come back.
He's got the message.
He gets the message that he's not going to stay here. Yeah. And so that, that I think also is just, again, part of our job as Hospitalera is protecting and seeing when there's a problem and making sure that, that you're taking care of those things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's a great story.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
Wow. We've talked about a lot there. We should probably let people go. We could talk forever. That's what happens when you get two Camino-holics talking, isn't it?
I know. Yeah.
Janet, I know you're doing some great work volunteering there over in the States at the moment, so we better let you get back to that. And I really do appreciate your time to come on and share your thoughts with us. It's been tremendous. And
well, we'll see you on the forum then.
Yeah, and who knows, one day at an albergue.
Maybe.
Yeah. And if you haven't planned your first Camino yet, start planning. Great. We'll talk soon, Janet. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.